All right, we are back, Level Up Grappling Podcast. Now, before I introduce my guest today, I should say our guest, I want you all to remember your homework, your weekly homework. You like, you subscribe, you share. Now, you don't have to share with that many people. All I'm asking is for 3 new people a week. You all train at relatively decent sized gyms. So all you need to do is once you click that like and subscribe, you share with 3 people. Copy the link to the latest episode, share it with 3 people. Okay? Easy task, doesn't cost you any money, and we all win. All right? Because we give you amazing content week in and week out. So, our guest today, Jiu-Jitsu black belt, catch wrestler extraordinaire, shit talker extraordinaire, Joshua Hightower.
It happens.
It happens. So, Josh, thanks for coming on the show, my friend. Walk
Absolutely.
us
Appreciate you having
through,
me.
you've had a very successful run in the grappling world, and I'd like to know how you got started from the beginning of your martial arts journey and what brought you into submission grappling, jiu-jitsu, and catch wrestling. So start us back from the beginning. How did you get started in martial arts?
Yeah. Well, pretty much like anybody else that grew up in wrestling, at 5 years old, I was on the wrestling mat pretty much every day for up until 18 years old. And throughout that time, off and on, my dad would be, you need to go do some judo. You need to go do some jujitsu. You won't be able to do wrestling forever. And it was always that hint of impending doom of wrestling being over when you graduate. um, and so as I got older, I always tried to expand a little bit more, doing freestyle and then Greco, and of course doing folk style and training with collegiate style rules and later on. But after I graduated, I had a wonderful son with a wonderful woman in high school, and I had a scholarship offer drop because of that. So I joined the army instead and went to Iraq and got injured in an IED in 2004. Then after I get medically discharged and get healed up a little bit, I go to Arkansas, and just out of pure happenstance, I had emailed a judo coach in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where I was stationed at, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to Arkansas, and do you know anybody?" And he's like, "Yeah, I know Jarvis Colon." And the funny thing was, I had never seen him before, obviously. So when I showed up, I walked into his gym and I saw 4 little black kids playing in the corner, having lots of fun. And then I saw this massive monster black guy rolling with this little white guy. And in my brain, I was like, Jarvis. It's just a different name. And turns out this guy just beat the snot out of everybody, and I loved it. And he's like, you know, judo is fun. He's black belt in judo and jujitsu, and he's a kickboxing world champ. And he's like, but what you're really going to enjoy is doing jujitsu. And I was like, well, that sounds great. And he's like, and I've got Boyd Ritchie coming. This is over the course of a month. He goes, I've got Boyd Ritchie coming down to do a catch wrestling seminar. And then when the catch wrestling seminar happened, it was on, because everything that Boyd was showing you was a wrestling move that I learned throughout my life, especially as I progressed more and got involved with coaches like Steve Knight, and I got to see Dan Gable at a lot of seminars, and everything that Boyd was teaching was a move that I already knew, but it put a submission into it. It
Mm,
made it an actual catch. It actually made it painful, and that was kind of the hitch for me. And so I started doing catch wrestling, and I guess in 2020, when the pandemic happened, the our state of Arkansas was making it so difficult. They were closing people's gyms down. They were making people wear masks in their car, and I was like, this is just not going to work out. And so my family and I came down here to Florida, where Disney World might be making you wear a mask inside, but they weren't outside. Legoland was letting you go inside all the time. And so I found Josh LeDuc, and just it, the thing that I've always told my kids is that if somebody's better than you at a specific thing that you'd like to do, and for me, it's Legolas. I love Legolas. I found Josh LeDuc on through the internet, and immediately I knew that he was like generationally better than me at Legolas. And I was so frustrated by that. I was like, I'm going to go down there and learn from this guy until I can beat him at Legolas. And he was opening and welcome and just a pleasure to train with. And before long, started competing in Fight to Win, Submission Hunter Pro, all these places. And I was winning these matches. And it got to the point where the promoters would stop having me on their shows, and not for negative reasons, but because I wasn't ranked. And these are basically jujitsu kind of stylized events, and that was my journey for jujitsu. It's like, okay, I've got to do jujitsu, and I've got to take it seriously because I didn't want to disrespect all these people that have put in all this time. And so from 2020 to 2025 in February, I was fanatically involved in progressing. And, with 30 years of wrestling experience and catch wrestling, it made the journey in jiu-jitsu that much easier for me. And so it took about 5 years to get my black belt
Wow.
under Josh LeDuc. He stylized it or characterized it as American jiu-jitsu, which I kind of like because um, we like to wrestle more in that kind of uh, framework. And now I'm within a week and a half of opening a gym in Ocala, Florida. So it's um, you know, one step that forward, and then it's like, yeah, instead of just one step, we just jump out the plane and go.
That's incredible.
Very cool.
It's
So
that's not the
what
word my wife used, but it's definitely one of them.
no, that's great. What now let me ask you this. Since you had a wrestling base, a wrestling foundation from being a small kid, how was that able to translate for you once you got into jujitsu, which is in a sense the antithesis of wrestling when, you're working a lot of guard, you're playing off your back, you're doing stuff that they tell you not to do in wrestling. So,
Yeah,
what was that like for you, that transition, and how did you interpret in order to blend it together?
yeah. So I was very very fortunate in that um, when I started training with Jarvis, he was a wrestler in California and a very, very good wrestler. And so the game that both he and I did was very, very top heavy. We'd take a guy down or they would pull guard and then we would just drive him through the mat. And at any point when you can control the person's body and where you put it and they can't do anything about it, it makes everything else you do easier. You might not be able to beat them because of pressure and control, but it makes getting to the submission, to the points, whatever you're doing, it makes it that much easier. So the the foundation of wrestling, being able to control where a fight takes place, and you've ever heard Joe Rogan talk about it. He says it ad nauseum that being able to make the fight take place where you want it to be is what makes wrestlers so much more effective than jujitsu by itself. So it was and then, of course, as you all know, when you wrestle and you train it every day, it is a grind. And usually, it's like having a training camp for a fight, except you don't have a fight coming up. You're just doing that every single day for the rest of your life, and that changes you. That changes the person that you are, and it changes your outlook on everything that you do. So everything is easier, and everything needs to be placed in this framework of I could do this because I can make myself push past these limits. And so putting those two things together, the pressure, the top control, and just the foundational experience of being able to do it every single day without stopping, just, whether you're injured or hurt, but it doesn't matter. You keep doing it, and it's repetitions. You do thousands upon thousands and thousands of repetitions, and then it just becomes a part of who you are. And that was the thing that made it easier for me, and it's also made it it's helped me become a much better coach because kids can see how doing the wrestling and how they get better at wrestling, it goes hand in hand with making their jujitsu better.
That makes sense. So let me ask you this. From that perspective, I'm very curious in terms of how you organize something very specifically here. When we are doing submission grappling, there's always going to be somebody on the bottom. Okay. It's with factually, somebody's always on the bottom. So, with that being said, how do you teach and then how do you train guard work?
Yeah. So it's one, it very much depends on your athlete. And that's something that I've learned as a coach. I've been coaching wrestling specifically for almost, say, 25 years now. And what I've learned very early on is that if you try to force your game onto another person, another athlete, especially a kid, you might get them to do what you wanted them to do, but they don't grow. They are stunted by this wall that you put in front of them, this wall of the technique that, but if you take what they do, especially if they've grown up with it and they're experimenting with it and they're building their foundation, if you just make that a better base and you add to it, it makes it much more effective for them as they age. And in my view, and I purely my own perspective on this because other people are completely different, and that's good. But my view is that wrestling is the most successful, and this is true for all submission sports. It's the most successful when you think of it in the long term, where you're making a pipeline from 4 years old to 40 years old. And that person is there through the entire aging process. You're starting to create generational wrestlers, generational competitors, and generational events that people kind of make part of their life. And that makes the whole team better. And that just makes sense, that the more uh, compact the team is together, the more that they train together, the longer they train together, the better everybody gets. So I think that in itself is one of the easiest things to do, but it's also one of the most effective things to make a long-term, successful team.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'd have to agree with you in the sense that I don't personally, I always tell people I don't teach my game. I teach concepts, mechanics, fundamentals, and then I have people use that to develop their personal style based on attributes. But everybody that walks into my school and trains with me, we all have the same mindset and the same philosophy, right? Because we're all working with the same fundamentals and the same concepts. Yet at the same time, a lot of it's going to look different because, one may be female, one may be taller, one may be shorter, one may be heavier, skinnier. So everybody has their diversity of adaptive function,
Yeah.
right? So it's just how do you implement what I consider the lowest common denominator being the mechanics, the fundamentals, and the concepts, and then allow them to unleash those principles together, right, into their own personal style,
Oh yeah.
over time, right?
And a perfect
That's what I
example
think
of that.
makes more successful
Oh,
athletes.
yeah. A perfect example of exactly what you're saying is when I teach, because I do a lot of leg locks. No, anybody that knows me is not going to be surprised by that. But I teach a lot of leg locks. And if I'm teaching an entry from, just I'm on the ground and they're standing and attacking me, and that's just an old position that you start training with. I teach a lot of inversion, but people that are bigger than me are not inverting. You're talking about 230-pound people, 250. You few of them could do it. they're not going to be able to do it for very long because they're big guys. They're just not going to go inverted into a leg lock entry. So, but the technique, the entry, whether you're doing it inverted or just standard, is the same principle. So if you're teaching the principle and giving both the big guy and the little guy, the 140 pounder who can, you know, do every kind of single roll there is in the book and, you know, do all the things on the bouncy ball where they're all spinning around, those guys can do that. If you're teaching the principle that gives you the entry and then the actual hold and the braking mechanics, especially the braking mechanics are the most important thing. Those are universal no matter which way you get to them. And being able to teach that is probably the first step of becoming a successful coach.
Okay. Now, I've got a weird technical question for you. Me and Adam are old. So what we've noticed over the years is language changes, the vernacular and everything. And sometimes we hear certain terms. And I know me and Adam are left scratching our heads because we just don't know what the fuck people are talking about. So I'm not making a joke, but this is funny. And I'm not trying to be weird, but what's a honey hole?
See, I had the same thing happen to me because, you know, coming from a wrestling background in catch
Mhm.
wrestling, that position, you know, is a leg scissor, right? And but when you're doing it in jujitsu and you're going between the legs like that, it's like, you know, it's hard to identify when people are saying that. So, in fact, one of the things that I always did is like, I crap, I can barely remember my name half the time. I can barely remember my kids' names, and only got four of them. The you know, being able to say this is the move, this is a technique. So being in honey hole when uh, and you've got it between the legs and everything, doesn't really matter what you call it at that point. It doesn't matter, you know, if you call it a single leg X inside or a scissor leg inside, whatever you want to call it, as long as the technique and the the braking mechanics, they're all being taught at the right consistent level.
Okay, so but still walk me through because I
So
want to try and
this is a
visualize
honey
this.
hole. Is that right, Josh? This is a honey
Like
hole.
a lesbian scissor is a honey hole,
Like
or what?
this is a honey hole.
Um, so
Like this, yeah. Like honey hole.
what is what? Still, we're
What the
trying to
yeah,
understand.
what the
Like,
fuck is it?
what is it?
my virgin ears don't know what you mean about lesbians, but yes, and so
Okay.
it's kind of like that, except I'm trying to get it right. One comes over.
So it's like a
You're
50-50. So it's like a 50-50 guard.
basically,
It's like
except it's the other
50-50.
direction.
Okay.
So instead of 50-50, it's there.
Yep.
Okay.
Tilting sideways a little bit and hooking up the leg, basically like an
So it's
almost
like
like
a
an upside
reverse
down leg
lesbian
ride.
scissor.
Almost
Okay.
like an upside
All
down
right.
leg
Yeah.
ride.
An upside down leg ride.
A lot of times it looks like a monkey on a football.
Okay. Because for the life of me, we were trying to figure it out. And my friend Reggie Almeida, you know, he's an older guy too. He's like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck a honey hole is. I'm like, you know, I got confused over the years when people were changing the names of stuff and they're like, well, what do you call this? So when I'm like out doing seminars and stuff, I just tell them when I go into somebody's gym or whatever, I go, I don't know what you guys call this. So I go, and you guys everybody seems to change the name of positions and techniques like every 5 years or so. So I can't keep up, nor do I want to be honest with you. I go, you grab this and you grab this. What's
Yeah.
most important is how you lock up the joint, because, you know, that's what I need you to do. I need you to lock up this particular joint, and here's what we're doing. Call it whatever you want. And they're like, oh, this is so and so. I go, I don't know what the fuck that means. You know, it's been they change it too much. It's been too many times in too many years now. So I don't know what the
Don't
hell
even
people
bring
are
in the
talking
Japanese names, okay?
about.
I know Kawasaki and Yamamoto and things like that. Anything that has a motorcycle engine that I can remember, but outside of that, you'll lose me.
Yeah, I don't. The funny thing is, it's like, yeah, there's sometimes just from my judo, I'll slip into a judo name,
Yeah.
but I'd much rather say, okay, here's how we're setting up a hip toss versus here's your Ogoshi entry, because then people are like, huh? And I have to make sure, okay, we're not to say Kazushi is an example. I'm like, okay, here's how we're off balancing the opponent. It is very confusing. It's so damn confusing. And I think it's almost like a lot of us, I'm just going to use the generic us, are looking to overcomplicate terms just to sound smarter than we are or to sound more innovative than we are. When the
Yeah.
fact of the matter is there's only a certain number of ways you can lock a joint down, right?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah, and that's what I've always said is that if you have to know anything specifically, I'd rather you know anatomy
yeah,
and know how the body moves, know how you can affect that and how to manipulate it, and then how to make it break. And those are that it's all the other stuff is superfluous at that point. Now, yeah, the names are fine. I don't have a problem with people making up the names, but it's not like I'm not going to tell John Danaher that he can't use 32,000 names that he makes up and mixes with Japanese because he knows what he's doing, right? He knows how to teach it, and that's the part that matters. So if you can properly, transfer your information to a student so that they can comprehend it at whatever level they're at, because you can teach leg lock. I dislike the idea that you can't teach leg locks to blue belts, right? I think you should be once you become a safe grappler, you should be learning leg locks because that's the way the world works today in submission grappling. You're not going to go very far if you can't deal with them. And so, I think if you can take this movement, these breaking mechanics, and let people see them, feel them, and affect them on their partner, that's what's important, and not the name of it.
yeah. I think one thing I would suggest to people, as outrageous as this sounds, but I've learned a lot from these particular individuals, is get with a good chiropractor and start asking questions. Because chiropractors have an amazing understanding of the anatomy and how things break and how things put together. And because you'll have easier access to a chiropractor than say an orthopedic physician, especially in the US. But if you get a good chiropractor to train you on the basics of anatomy, you can learn a lot. And I have a really good chiropractor, and I've always asked him, hey, what would be the most effective? This is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm trying to get at here. Ironically, my chiropractor, before he stopped training because he got a little too busy, was a student of mine and used to wrestle in high school and college. So his understanding of the mechanical function in a grappling setting was a lot higher than, the average person because
Yeah,
he could help me translate what my vision was and what I was trying to do
yeah,
and make it tighter, actually make it more effective. Where I was like, hey, what would be the best way for me to disable this particular joint? Right. And lock this down in a way where I can get them immovable, and then you'll get more customers anyways. Right. So they want more patience and
oh yeah.
I want more efficacy in my
Wait,
rips and my pins.
one of the things that people overlook a lot um, is the nervous system. If granted, there's some people that pain compliance doesn't work on. If you're partially retarded like me, your reaction to pain doesn't always come out the way that it does for everybody. For a large portion of the people, if you know the nervous system, if you know where the nerves are at, and you use it effectively within what you're doing already, knowing the anatomy of that stuff makes it a whole lot easier to, open somebody's turtle up, to, do any, sort of number, open somebody's neck up when you're behind them and their turtle up so you can't rear naked choke them. All these things come into play, especially like from a catch wrestling perspective. I've always thought that catch wrestlers intuitively had a better understanding of the nervous system and how to use it because they're not the gentle art, right? And then, as silly as that sounds, it's, it, it plays itself out pretty often when you have a good catch wrestler that's training and comes to say like with the jiu-jitsu gym and they're just cross training. Those are the kind of things that come out and the guys are like, oh, wow, I've never felt that before. How did you do that? And it's just like, oh, well, I've always done this because of wrestling. So I think things like that, this on the anatomy side, are not just like important, but they're things that everybody can do because it's so simple.
So walk me through any challenges you've had as a wrestler turned catch wrestler turned jujitsu leg artist specialist when you've cross trained or visited other jujitsu gyms where these types of techniques are either foreign or straight up banned.
Yeah. So
What's been that experience for you?
there's going to be, I'm sure, if they listen to this, they're going to be screaming at their computer or cell phone because they're going to be darn that Hightower. But the I will admit, very early on, my mentality as a wrestler was to go uh, as hard as I could for as long as I could, and most of the time that meant I was going hard the entire hour and a half, 2 hours, however long the practice was, and that just was not. Um, Especially in Arkansas with local gyms that were not like really big competition oriented gyms, um, they would view that as a bully.
Yeah.
And to me, I hate that because a bully is, I mean, I'm with my four boys, I'm constantly guarding against them ever developing even the slightest mentality of doing something that would be considered bullying. So when somebody told me that, and I will admit, if they ever do listen to this, is that in their view, from where they were looking at it, absolutely seemed like that. It seemed like I was, sticking my thumb in the, behind their ear to get them to open up for a neck crank or a neck choke. Or, you know, I would do a shin lock when, guys would get in their, sit on their butt for rounds. I would take my knee and do like a Dutch toe hold, except from top and not from behind. And so you just put your knee in their shin and you pull that toe up, and the guys are just flying all over the mat trying to get away from it. I mean, and to them, that's cheap and dirty. To me, it was like that's effective because it's making you get out of that silly position, right? And so um, there's to be a uh, a good catch wrestler and a good jujitsu practitioner. There is a certain level of responsibility that you have to both sides. You have to represent both ends of what you're doing, but you can't belittle the one side of what you're doing for the other one. So I can't come into, say LeDuc's gym and beat up everybody in his gym. Not that I could if, if I wanted to, but if that's what I was doing, I would lose the opportunity to learn so much about leg locks that I wanted to know just because I was rolling too hard.
Hmm.
And, or from being in jujitsu, if I come into a wrestling gym and I sit down and I pull guard immediately every single time, and I never want to stand up, I never want to roll live, it makes it for a wrestler especially, it's not fun anymore when you've got to deal with somebody who doesn't want to engage. And so there's this, uh, I don't know, there's this weird juxtaposition where you have to take them both with equal footing, at least in the way that you present it to the world. You might, for me, yes, I love catch wrestling. Yeah, I don't love the community of catch wrestling. I think it's the most toxic, you know, thing in the world. But I love the sport. I love the techniques. I love everything about it, and I like jujitsu a lot. So, because my personal feelings um, can't outweigh the way I present myself, I had to learn very early on when I was going to other people's gyms that I had to learn to roll within their limitations or their desires or what they wanted to accomplish because I was just, I was a guest. And when you're a guest, you treat yourself or you treat them like they're the honored homeowner. They're the honored, gym owner. You don't go into somebody's house and leave your shoes on. They just simply ask you to take your shoes off at the door. And that's the way I felt about it. And very, very early on. It probably around 2016 is when I started getting a really bad reputation for being too rough, which is probably true. And I was doing it at tournaments. For me, it was like people were like, oh, don't go beat people up for a $2 gold medal. And in my mind, I was this unranked white belt catch wrestler going to black belt divisions and blowing people up. And I thought that was a success. And then over
Mm.
time, I realized that I was getting limited by uh, all the exposure that I could be getting. But now people didn't want to do anything with me because they didn't want to have to deal with the headache of somebody rolling too hard. And so as I progressed and as I learned, just as I started meeting other jujitsu guys and sambo guys and judo guys, I learned that the more I acquiesced to what they need, but still keep true to myself on my side, the better it is for both of us long term because we both get to learn something new without beating them with it. Not beating like winning, but beating them physically with something because, you know, if you just hurt somebody over and over and over again with, whatever kind of leg lock you want to come up with, they're not going to want to learn it. They just want to stop. They don't want to do anything with you ever again. But if you help them see it in a way that is advantageous for them, then they're able to learn it and then they can defend it against you and you learn to work within that and make your technique better because they learned how to defend it. So there's a very quick and rapid growth personally in the way that I interact with other people. That was the big thing for me.
Mm. So I got to line up these questions properly. So I want to get into a technique question, then I want to ask you a controversy question.
Okay.
What inspired you as a wrestler? What attracted you and inspired you to focus on leg locks?
um, I when I came into the gym and people, they say you start on your knees, but nobody starts on their knees anymore. They start on their butt, they're laying back, and they're keeping one hand up. And I was like, his leg is sticking out. I didn't know anything about it. I was like, but his leg's sitting right there. Why don't you just grab it and twist it? And the coach goes, that's a leg lock. And I love leg locks. You want to learn? And I was like, well, heck, yeah, I do. And that literally it was that stupid and that simple that I'll put it this way. I regrettably am very lazy, and my wife will tell you that, so it's not a lie. the, the, the I want to find the easiest way to win, to conserve the most energy that I can. And I'm 42 years old now, and I'm not actively competing like I used to, but I don't want to waste time and effort, you know, rolling around looking like, a beautiful scramble. And as beautiful as it is, it
Mm.
doesn't feel good for me. So doing a leg lock, I'm almost ashamed to say this. I've had just from when I moved to Tampa, Ocala, Florida in 2020, I've had hundreds of wins, hundreds of them, and high level and low level, and I've had lots of losses too. Unbelievable. I've just competed enough that I've had both of each, and I've had two matches that were not a leg lock. I had my very last match at Fight to Win. I took a guy down, and he fell down so hard, I literally just kind of fell on his back. And I was like, oh, I guess I better choke him since I'm here. And then I had an arm bar one time. But
Mm.
every other time, guys don't want to wrestle, so they literally sit down. If the rules allow it, outside of like ADCC, the rules even at ADCC, guys are now willing to take the penalty because it's almost like it's easier to work for a sweep or reversal than to worry about getting a takedown or
Yeah.
giving them a takedown. So they're doing that. Why would I even give them the possibility of sweeping me? And that's how I started getting into toe holds because I can get far enough away from somebody and control uh, a limb with a foot and an ankle and a calf. And if I start with that and I have a good framing setup and good braking mechanics, you could toe hold pretty much anybody. And the problem is that people run into with toe holds is that they want to toe hold somebody with no braking mechanics, and they're like, "Oh, it
Mm.
doesn't work, so I'll never do a toe hold ever again because it doesn't work." And you know, knee bars shouldn't work either. Knee bars are the most silly thing in the world, and I've always said if you get tapped by a knee bar, you need to retire from life. And I've actually tapped like 3 guys from knee bars just because I learned that if I do the proper brake mechanics, doesn't really matter. It's going to break.
Yeah.
So that's just how it was. It presented itself as a solution to a problem, and it was the easiest one for me.
Mm. That makes sense. Because it's not something usually that a wrestler would automatically gravitate to right off the bat,
Yeah.
right? When they're
I was a leg
entering.
rider in high school.
Okay.
That's all I did was leg riding. I was 134.26 in my 4 years, and I had 110 pins. 110 of them were either from some kind of Turk or
Mhm.
a wrestling guillotine or something of that fashion. And it was my bread and butter. And it naturally just came. People are doing these rolls from, you know, top mount or top saddle, like we would say in catch. And that's just stuff we did in wrestling as a leg rider. You were just turking somebody over, and so it all became natural. And it's funny too because I'm watching my son's tournaments, and now leg riding is coming back. It's like I always say it. Nothing is new under the sun. Everything is a fad, and it's coming back around and around. So you know, the more athletic the kids are getting, especially I think kids are getting more athletic earlier now, they're able to do these things. So I think it's an incredibly encouraging thing for the sport overall.
Yeah. It's, interesting. I would be very excited to see leg rides making a comeback. I think riding in general is very much underutilized,
Oh yeah,
and, once you understand really how to mechanically utilize rides in general and leg rides efficiently, boy, you can become a very dangerous grappler, especially in the submission grappling world. Um, there's just so many opportunities there. And,
absolutely. And that's why American wrestlers do so good at it because freestyle negates that entirely. And I see that people like, oh, we need to take folk style or collegiate style out of high school and make it freestyle. They did that with women's wrestling. Now women's college wrestling is freestyle, and they've completely lost that sense of control that comes with
yeah,
it, a natural control. And that's why I've always advocated for top pressure and leg wrestling and riding heavy in wrestling, and it only comes from folk style. It does not come from any other style of wrestling,
yeah.
outside of like catch wrestling.
And you see how effective it is in MMA.
Absolutely.
If
Khabib.
yeah, there's a big difference between Khabib style versus Yoel Romero style,
Yeah.
right? And those would be two
Yep.
very stark contrasts of wrestling that you can see, um, what the success ratio is of, how you're in the top position, how you're escaping a bottom position, like all that. Very, very
Hey,
important.
Yoel and DC,
Mhm.
two different types of wrestlers,
Very different.
very, very good at what they did. But I'm taking DC every single day of the week.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you bring that up, and something that I really encourage the listeners to explore. How to work rides, how to just focus on leg rides, and even if they don't get into what I would say some type of mastery of leg locks, but if you understand riding positions and how to leg ride, boy, you can be a dangerous son of a bitch.
Yeah.
So
It opens up passing so much more effectively
absolutely,
when they have to defend what they think is leg and giving up, the side control or going straight to their back from it.
yeah. You made a comment in passing that I'd like to explore, just in generality. So we don't need to get into specifics or names or anything like that. But I do want to explore this. You mentioned something that, Adam and I talk about this ad nauseum, probably too much to the point it just gives us headaches. And at our age, having a daily migraine when we talk about this is probably not helpful. But the toxicity of the catch wrestling community.
You sure you don't
Let
want to do names? I'd love to.
no, I'd rather avoid names
I
We
because
can
the
compare lists. We can compare
yeah,
lists. Believe me, I got a long one too.
yeah. So, but the thing is, this is like, I think it is important to kind of explore this a little bit, just because I think there is, because we all are, we do identify our grappling identification as catch
Yeah,
wrestlers, among other things, but we're also jujitsu black belts. Adam and I are judo black belts as well. And Adam's a master of sport in Sambo. So we have this diversity of background, but it is interesting how uniquely toxic the catch wrestling community is. So
very
I would like,
uniquely.
I'd really like your perspective and opinion in terms of how and why it is so toxic.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that is it, there's a few people out there that will know what I'm talking about, but I'm a master gunsmith, and I work on I kind of focus on AR-15s because I that's kind of what I grew up with. I was in the Army infantry, rappelled out of helicopters with an M4 with a grenade launcher on it. So I love those things. But what was so like eye-opening for me, this is before I even started getting involved in the wrestling forums, because I didn't really get online right away. But when we started dealing with these AR-15 groups on Facebook, and you can go on Facebook and just type in AR-15 group, and you'll find like somebody will post a picture of a brand new gun they got, just super happy about it. They're in love with their gun, and they're just like, I want everybody to be able to appreciate it just like I do. And it's hundreds of comments of "you're a piece of this and that," and "your gun sucks," and "you should die,"
Wow.
like literally bad, horrible things. And I was like, man, this is just a bunch of guys that are so jealous of somebody else having a good time or enjoying something, that they're not even willing to let somebody else enjoy something and share. Because I've always found, and anybody that's a father or a husband knows that I I get way more joy from my kids and my wife having enjoyment at Disney World than me being, one, I'm miserable at having to walk around Disney World for 12 hours, but it makes me happy that they're happy. And that's
Mhm.
something that this group can't do. And then when the catch wrestling groups came up, I was like, I had a double take. I was like, these are the same people. I mean, not literally the same people, but
Mhm.
the mentality is the same. It's
Yeah.
like, um, I could post a video. I had at ADCC Orlando. I was in the finals against Zhao Minyao, a Brazilian. He was I think it was a three, maybe a four stripe black belt. And
Mhm.
this is before I think I was a brown belt. And I got like a 30-second, maybe a 40-second heel hook on him. And the way that I did it is something that I've worked on. It's just an entry that I do that's different than what normal uh, uh, what people would think is normal. And when I posted that, somebody um, took it off my YouTube page and posted it in a catch wrestling group, one that I wasn't a part of. It was just like hundreds of comments of talking about how I was this piece of crap wrestler that had no business being on the mat with this black belt, even though I just beat him. And it was like, this is insanity. You're taking something that made me feel good, that my kids were there, they enjoyed it, they wanted to be a part of it. And I'm like, why don't we all share in the happiness of a catch wrestler being able to wrestle, being able to do something they love? Why can't everybody enjoy this? And it was nobody would uh, go, you know what? That's just different. That's just a different move. That's not what I do, but it's just different. It might not work for me, but it works for him. And it was weird too because all the guys like so let's just say you and I, all three of us, we're in the same group, and I get into an argument with some guy that thinks he's the greatest grappler in the world, and I might have this incredibly long argument with him, and all the good guys are like, you know what, I'm not going to deal with that, right? I'm not going to. I don't want to be a part of that, and I get it. That's that. I don't want to be a part of somebody else's argument either, and that's what happens is the good guys say, you know what, I'm not going to give them the satisfaction of fighting because just the fight lets them know that I'm mad. And if
Mhm.
they know that I'm mad, that means that they're not happy. And if I'm not happy and they're not happy, we're all miserable together. And so the good guys do the right thing. And then all the bad guys see all this crap happening and they go, you know what? I'm not happy either. And since I'm not happy, I want to get in on that guy getting his from the other guy. I don't know who it is. I don't know what they're fighting about, and I don't want them to be happy either. And that's all there is to it. There is just such a lack of decency. And it's just as simple as that, is wanting somebody else to feel good about themselves, to
Mhm.
enjoy what they're doing, and to appreciate it. And the cool thing is that when you do that, and we all know this firsthand experience, that as a coach, when you help somebody become something they want to be, you help them achieve something, it's the greatest feeling. And it's, yes, there's a little bit of selfish affirmation in it because, that was, you know, that made me feel good to make him feel good. But the truth is that him doing it, his work is what gave him all of that happiness and joy. And I get to share in that. And for
Yep.
some reason, once it turns onto the electronic mode on the internet, everybody, and I think it's just because we're just, talking about hundreds of millions, billions of people that are available. And, maybe there's 50-50 on good people and bad people, but 90% of the bad people are going to comment and 10% of the good people are going to comment. So most of the good people are not going to be a part of it. And all the bad people are going to get in on it. And that's just where we are. I think that is just going to be a necessity of the reality of these groups if we continue even engaging them at all.
So
Mm.
for me, I think I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think part of the main problem in catch wrestling groups per se, and we've spoke about this before, is because there is no controlling body. There is no rules that you have to abide by. There is no ranking system. You can claim whatever you want and people have to accept it. And what it tends to generate, I find, is a lack of respect. Yeah, because it's multiple differing opinions on something, which in essence should be a good thing. Yeah, differing opinions is a good thing. Um, Chaos creates creativity. Yeah, it creates discussion, conversation, new outlooks, new ideas. It's how things progress. But what I find in these groups, and I tend to use Mike Tyson's saying on that, part of the problem is people get on the internet and they can say whatever they want because there's no risk of getting
Yeah.
punched in the face.
Yep.
Yeah, basically. And it's just, for me, I see it as a real lack of common courtesy, a real lack of respect for a differing opinion. And as I said before, yeah, opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one and they're usually full of shit, right? That's just how it is.
Mhm.
Um, Everybody's opinion is gospel to them. Yeah. And that's cool. I'm down with that. And I'd love to hear opinions. Unfortunately, the problem is with these opinions for a lot of these people in these groups, they have an opinion. If someone disagrees with it, instead of having a debate about the pros and cons of that opinion, it becomes this little slag fest where everybody's pissing on everyone else's parade. You can't do this, you can't do that. At the end of the day, I can do as I fucking please. Let me tell you that. First and foremost, I'll do as I please when I please, regardless of what anyone says. But secondly, I also am a believer that so should they. Yeah, I'm not one of these guys that go, I'll do as I please, but you have to do what I say. No, it doesn't work like that. We all do as we please. We all have our own opinion, and we all should be able to share that opinion without a bunch of peanuts jumping in and rah at everything. Yeah, and I'm talking, I've had guys, and anybody who's in the forums will know what I'm talking about here. Somebody has taken one of my videos, posted it without my permission, and had a spray on it. And literally all I said in that was, I don't really care that you used it. That's cool, but give us credit. And that became an opportunity for them to slag me off, basically being real smart ass comments and stuff like that. And to tell you the truth, I was dumbfounded by it. More than anything, I was more
It's like, how can
dumbfounded
that
by
be
it.
a problem? Like
Yeah, how did my video even come into it? First and foremost. But two, how did this end up me being on the end of some sort of shit fight when I didn't even criticize it? You know? And look, I'm all down for a shit fight.
And
Anybody
you're
who
not
knows,
even married to the guy.
no. And anybody who knows me knows I'm down for a shit fight. Yeah, but anybody who also knows me knows I'm not down for a shit fight on the internet. Yeah, I don't waste my time with that. If you're that seriously want to have a crack at it, get on a plane, come out here, and we'll sort it out. Until then, shut the fuck up and leave me out. If I'm not instigating, if I'm not poo-pooing your opinion, yeah, like as you said, Josh, I stay out of it. People are arguing, that's your argument. Yeah, that's a debate between you guys. Go nuts. If I'm out of it, don't bring me into it.
Yeah.
I'm not
And
interested.
none of us would expect you to get into it either.
No, that's the thing. Yeah. And it seems like it's just an opportunity to show more discourtesy. And it's one small group. Yeah. We all know this. We're all on the forums. It's a small group and they all have one thing in common, which I'm just going to leave it at that. You know, they all have one thing in common and they're ridiculous. Yeah. It's just getting to the point now where it's become this overwhelming tirade of silliness where there's no need for it. There's no common courtesy. There's a total lack of respect for anyone else's opinion but theirs. And it's at the point now where the groups are that toxic that a lot of people who would be coming to catch wrestling and possibly exploring catch wrestling will look at these groups and go, I'm not going anywhere near that.
Oh yeah. I
And
won't
disappear.
even encourage my people to do it. Like when they come in and they're new wrestlers, like I want the wrestlers from the local high school to come learn how to choke people, right? I'm never going to tell them to get on the forums. It's like if they find that forum by themselves, okay, fine. But I'm going to be like, hey man, unless you want to seriously doubt how evil the world is, stay away from it.
Yeah. Unless of course they come to Brian and my group that we started called Catch Wrestling Co-op. Yeah. Facebook, Catch Wrestling Cooperative Group, guys. No bullshit. Anyone bullshit in there, you're out. We don't bother with it. It's about discussion and about promotion of people's ideas, opinions, techniques, whatever it is. It's about promotion.
It even says it. It says it right there on the post.
Sure said it right there because it's not even, you're not getting a warning. If there's any toxicity, you're just automatically eliminated. It's really that simple. And here's the thing. I'm going to throw my 2 cents into this. Here's what I've noticed. And I remember back in the day, there was these forums. There was the NHB gear forums when the internet was starting to get forums and grappling, and then the MMA.tv. I think it's called something else now. It's 90% of the time, if not 99% of the time, it's guys with zero technique and zero experience that are the ones with the biggest mouth.
Oh, yeah.
And talking the most shit. Because the fact of the matter is the three of us can have a little group chat and share videos with each other. And what we're going to do, it's not going to be like, you fucking piece of shit, you suck, you don't know what you're doing, blah, 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 blah.
Well,
it's more like,
hey, it'd be fun.
Yeah, but it would also be much more constructive of, hey, how did you get this? Can you show me, please? can you walk me through how you did this thing? How did you get there? Have you tried this? It would be much more constructive and informational, where there's more of a respect thing where we're asking questions to understand more the thought process behind a particular technique, to get even better result, right? And there's just a maturity there because we've been doing it a long time, and we have the experience and the humility to actually want to learn. I always want to see something where it's just like, I can't tell you how many times Adam has sent me videos and I'm like, okay, I need to know more. Walk me through how you did this, 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 and this. At no point would I ever say, you piece of shit, this sucked. You don't know what you're doing. You're a fraud, blah, blah, blah. This is the only way to do it. I run the entire continent of catch wrestling and I have the only authentic lineage. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
I don't even
Okay.
worry. I don't even worry about any of that lineage and continental business and stuff. That to
Yeah.
me is
Yeah.
Well,
old
It's
news,
so retarded.
old news, old
Yeah,
hat, and just silliness. But in regards to those videos, like I'll show Brian something. Maybe he hasn't seen it. Maybe he's seen a version of it. Maybe he hasn't seen it at all. He'll send me something back going, well, what if I do this? Have you thought about how this can be counted like this? And I'll look at it and go, well, no, I haven't. But that's really good. So if I do this, would that stop the count? And then Brian goes, well, yeah, it will. That will stop that counter. And I go, cool. So we add that onto the back of it. Well, cool new move that we now have worked out together, and we both start doing it that way. It's great.
Yeah.
It
It's
really
just
is.
that maturity.
I really believe that even if you're the most selfish person in the world, it's so much better to give people, and my kid started using this term that I kind of want to punch him for. It's called glazing. Like
Yeah, my
it's like
daughter said that the other day. I had no idea what she was talking about. What are you?
it's
It's like a
almost as bad as
donut or something.
yeah, that's what it is. It's like one of my kid was like, hey, the kids on the team are glazing you. They saw your match, and I'm like, what? Is that gay? What? It was like,
It's
so,
a-
but but anyway, what I mean is like, if you are the most selfish person in the world, you want the other person that does something better than you to show you. You want to learn so you can do
Fuck
it
yeah, you
better than
do.
him. So there's
Yes.
no real reason to be like that outside of maybe, like I can understand a sociopath being like that, like just, has no empathy, has nothing but hatred or to drive to kill, whatever. I can understand that, but this is just mental illness that's being manifested through their fingers, and it's only happening. It's a unique mental illness. It's only happened because people have no consequences, and you know. I carry a gun every single day, everywhere I've ever been, and I've had a gun on me. And one of the things that did is it made me realize I can't get into a fight. I cannot get in a road rage. I cannot get into an argument. I cannot do any of these things because I have a gun and I will have to kill somebody if it comes to it. And I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't ever want to be in a position that I have to hurt somebody. And so because of that, the, the great power and great responsibility thing, as Uncle Ben would say, that made you realize to be better, you have to be willing to give up something, right? You have to be willing to give up that tough man act where you want to get into a fight all the time or whatever it is. But in the end result is that everybody is better for it because now I'm not getting into a fight. They're not getting into a fight. Nobody dies. And in the same way in wrestling, if everybody learns from each other, everybody's getting better, even if you don't like each other.
And so is
Yeah.
the art. Yeah, the art's getting better. The art's getting preserved.
Yes.
There's more people.
Those guys that we're talking about, these theoretical guys that are the fathers of whatever, they're killing catch wrestling. Even if they were catch wrestlers, even if they had legitimate accomplishments of any kind, which they don't. Even if they had, they're killing it simply because of the way they're making it so unbearable for a normal person who's just not willing to put up with it. They come in and they say, and if I walk into a gym and it says, you need to bow to this flag before you get on the mat, I'm walking straight back out, right? That's just not me. That's the same thing that's going to happen with these people. If they see that kind of crap that these people are doing, they're just going to leave. And then they're going to go do jujitsu.
Yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
talked about that before, like a lot of these, and I'll use the analogy, and it's kind of repeating myself, but it's really an important message, I think, like especially for listeners coming to catch and stuff, that, there is no authority, there is no rank. Yeah, the only authority that anyone can have is the respect of their peers in what they do. Okay, that's it. That's the authority. If my peers go, hey, I really like that stuff you did, there's your authority right there on that stuff that I've done. Um, and the problem is
If
when
if people are
people,
willing to pay for that, that's the thing. It's like they believe in you now.
yeah, and the thing also too is there's a reverse to that. If I'm a charlatan or I'm not up to scratch or
Like
whatever it
people in
is,
the South.
yeah, whatever it is, whichever way you look at it, and this is not directed at one person at all. This is not directed at one group. Honestly, it's
Listen to
not.
me.
I feel this way about in entirety. To promote catch wrestling and to have catch wrestling succeed and spread and grow and remain around, you have to have effective coaches. When
Oh
effective
yeah, absolutely.
coaches when effective coaches produce effective wrestlers and grapplers, those grapplers go, wow, this stuff really works. If I have a coach who's subpar, and because there's no authority, he can be a coach. If I have a coach who's subpar and I go train with him for 2 years straight and he's teaching me this catch wrestling and I enter, I don't know, grappling industries, something like that. And I enter the white belt division as a beginner. I've been catch wrestling for 2 years and I get
And you
my
get a belt.
ass handed to me by a white belt. Then what's the, if I'm a beginner and just spent 2 years training this catch wrestling from, as we've just talked about, a subpar coach, but for all I know,
Mm.
a coach because there's no authority. And I've spent 2 years training and learning this stuff and really believe in it. And I go to my first comp and a white belt hands me my ass. What is my first reaction? Catch wrestling doesn't work. It's bullshit. I'm going to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, either
That's it.
that or the person just hates themselves because they're not good enough. And it's you
Yeah,
never ever want to allow somebody to hate themselves because they think that they did something wrong. The coach has to take that responsibility and make that person understand it's not on them. It's on preparation now.
exactly. Exactly. It's about what you're doing, who you're doing it with, where are you training, what are you training, how often are you training, what are they making you do, what techniques are they teaching, are they viable, are they not viable, are they effective, are they not effective, are they efficient, are they not efficient, are you learning mechanics, are you learning procedures, are you learning concepts, or are you just being told to drill the same old shitty technique over and over again that was done wrong the first time and will continue to be wrong 1,000 times later?
Yep.
I
I've
think a
no.
lot of sorry,
Go
guys.
ahead. No, no, go ahead.
I think a lot of it is, and this is why, Adam and I were like, okay, let's just do a different Facebook group. A lot of it is how you create the culture. Um, if you create the proper culture, then you start to elevate people. Because one of the groups that I'm a part of, and I'm a paying member, I do not get paid to say this, and I've had Ebba Gerald on the podcast, but Iron Faith Wrestling. They have a group on the app called School, Skool. I'm a paid member. I love going on there because his content is fantastic. You have wrestlers from all over the world, particularly the United States, that come on. They ask questions. He's constantly sharing content. And the culture he has created is very positive, very uplifting. And you can post your matches and ask for feedback, right? And I have never, in the year and a half that I've been a part of this group, paid member, have I seen a single negative comment from anyone. Not toxic at all. And everybody is learning and everybody's developing, even from coaches asking questions. He has coaching call groups. He's putting up videos and people are constantly asking for. So a lot of it comes down to going forward, especially with the catch wrestling community. How do we collectively create a culture? And that's for those of us that are, senior leaders, so to speak. And I hate to use that term, but it kind of is what it is. but how do we create a culture? That's the first step was how we did this catch wrestling cooperative, where there is a zero tolerance policy for toxicity, right? And focusing on things that make people better. And
Yeah.
the same thing with this podcast, right? Why did Level Up Grappling take off? Because we are creating an informative culture. Yeah, we talk shit here and there, but it's to really kind of point out to how to avoid, and navigate through any type of toxicity or negativity. But week in and week out, when we have guests or when we're talking about stuff or when we're doing technique talks, it's to elevate the culture of grappling to where you can get on the mat as a gentleman and leave the mat as a gentleman. And in between, when be a monster, right? But develop yourself as the gentleman monster. We want everybody to be monsters on the mat and get better. But at the same time, be a fucking gentleman, for God's sake, and do not talk out of your ass, because as many grapplers as there are out there in the world, it's a very, very small world.
Yeah. And that's,
Very small world.
the cool thing about that, I've just recently started looking at, because, you added me to that group. The thing that I appreciate, the way I look at it is this: there are really good coaches that have different ways that they teach, right? So a coach that has wonderful technique and can translate it to his students and makes them better, that's great. I've also seen good coaches who aren't technically advanced or don't know everything, but they put in so much work to get the people to come in to do seminars, to well, they'll sit down and watch every single video and then call somebody and ask them, but they will not give crap to their students. Bad coaches will take whatever is easy and disseminate it to all these kids who go out and I hate to say it like this, but karate is really bad about this, especially in the last 3 decades. It's gotten really bad about making kids think that they're black belts with
Hmm.
touch sports that
Yeah.
mean nothing. And so good coaches are hard to come by. And I think that you're coalescing those in groups like this, the co-op group, and as they coalesce, it's going to just make them stronger. And I think that's a wonderful thing to be doing.
Yeah. And that was our goal, was always about sharing openly, creatively, happily, you know, questions, great. You get 42 different answers, and then there'll probably be, a big debate, but a very healthy debate. That's the difference. It's a healthy debate as opposed to unhealthy, degrading comments that mean nothing. In the grand scheme of things, if someone thinks my technique's shit, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like in the grand
And
scheme of things, and
yeah, that's the thing. It's like I always wondered. It's like when this started happening, and we're talking about the theoretical person here now, right?
yeah,
That theoretical one. Um,
uh-huh.
what I didn't understand is that when I had a problem, or if I had a problem with this theoretical person, I private messaged and I said, "Hey, um, you know, I'm sorry. This might sound kind of elitist, and I apologize, but this really looks like something that could hurt somebody the way you're teaching it."
Mm-hmm.
And I would never do that if off the bat on their video or something like that. I wouldn't do that, and you guys wouldn't do that.
No.
These good coaches would do that. They'd try to have an understanding about. Hey, it's really great that you're sharing videos and how you're teaching. Maybe we can fix this so it's a better product, right?
Mhm.
And instead, this theoretical person, does what this whole community is going into. So it's one of those things. It's almost like you can't even avoid it now without, as you said, building a community where all of the good coaches coalesce. And you know, it's like, what's the point of even having these other groups now? Like there's all they are is Indian singlet farmers that are trying to sell you, $10 gear, and uh, you
Yeah.
know, the same person putting up uh, videos of them beating their students up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if it's not that,
Theoretically.
it's just everybody else in there who's not that person arguing or starting shit in conflict for no reason. I just don't understand it. There's literally no reason to start conflicts with a whole bunch of people. It's not one person. It's like the whole group is turning that way, and it's like, wow. Like, talk about egos. You know, I am so grateful. Yeah, if somebody constructively criticizes something that I do. One, I am grateful they've taken the time to look at it. Two, I'm grateful that they've taken the time to think about what I've done. Three, they've also taken the time to think about what they think is wrong with it. Then four, taken the time to reach out and go, hey, Adam, have you ever thought of this? Because this is what I would do, and I think that it might counter that. And I go, no, I haven't. But thanks, Josh. Let me look at it. I'll get back to you. And I will go away with whatever you tell me, put it through the gym, get on the mat with my guys. I got national champion wrestlers here. Yeah, okay, let me give it. Let's run at it and let's see what happens. I do it. If I come back with, hey, Josh, I tried what you said. It didn't work out. I probably need some more information because it didn't work what you said. Yeah, so if you've got something, maybe I'm doing it wrong, can you send me a video? This is how we learn. And then if I can go, okay, Josh, cool, I've got your video, I'll try it, I'm going to video it, send it back to you and say, see where I got caught? It didn't work because of this. And then you go, yeah, well, I didn't know that. We both learned something. Yeah, and that is constructive, that is creative, that is beneficial, it is positive.
It means they care.
Exactly. Yeah. It means that somebody's taken the time to go, you know what, it's really cool. I watch your videos and they're really cool. But I just think that this one, I might have an answer to it. And I don't know if you thought of it. And I'm like, great, show me. I'm not that egotistical. And I've said this a million times over on this podcast. I am not a catch wrestling guru. I am not the know-it-all of catch wrestling. I am not. I'm just a dude who's been wrestling a fucking long time and knows some shit. I don't know all the shit. I just know a lot of shit. And I'm sure there's people out there, and I've said it before, Barnett is another one. I look and go, that dude knows more shit than I probably ever will. Paulson, he knows more submissions than most of us put together. You know, and I sit there and go, I don't think, and Brian said it too, you know, like I don't think there's anyone who knows more submissions or ways to hurt you than Paulson. You know, so if I'm doing a video and Paulson says to me, hey, Adam, you know, I reckon I could get you on that. I'd probably be sitting there and go, of course you can fucking get me on it, but tell me 10 ways you could do it so I can learn how to counter it.
Yeah. And it doesn't take any effort to do this. We're talking about moving our fingers, right? This is not going out, driving down the road and knocking on their door and apologizing or something like that. That takes effort. This is literally typing on your computer so that you can become a better person and a better grappler. And for some reason, that's so hard that their simple, feeble mind gets broken over, you know, us caring about the sport and wanting to make it better.
Yeah. And that's what it is. It's ego.
It is ego, and it's this diluted narcissism. And you know, the thing is there's people that claim they have these secret magic techniques. I always say there's no such thing as a magic technique or a secret move. The magic is in the mechanics, and you have to have a well-grounded understanding of mechanics. And when I have told certain people, hey, you know, giving them suggestions of, you should probably really clean this up. Here's a video how to make it cleaner. If you don't want to see it from me and you don't want anybody to know what you're doing, I always suggest to people all the time, Hicks and Gracie has a great online academy that you can sign up for, even if you do it for a couple of months, and learn some really amazing fundamental techniques cleanly. And you can add that to anything. You can add it to your catch wrestling. You can add it to anything because he's so sound technically. Why would you not want to learn from somebody that has already experimented every which way but Sunday, right? And knows the ins and outs of how to do something from ultra mechanical refinement, right?
Yeah.
Put your ego aside and just fucking learn. Do it quietly. Nobody has to know. If you still want to be the grandmaster of it all and think that you're the top shit, at least learn it quietly. So if you're going to display something, number one, to your point, Josh, You're not going to hurt your students, because I know exactly what you're talking about. There's videos out there that I'm like, oh my God, this person's going to end up in the hospital because that was so technically incorrect that you're going to really hurt somebody.
Yeah.
You know, we
And
have
theoretically,
videos out there now.
that guy doing the throw that is going to blow out somebody's knee because they don't know how to make a back step. It's like, theoretically speaking, it's like you're going to hurt your own students by doing this. And then
They
they're
don't know how
going
to
to make
break
it
fall.
worse. Yes.
And then they
Yeah.
don't even know how to break fall. It's just like, for fuck's sake, okay, they don't know how to break fall, and you're ragdolling somebody in a very violent way, but they've never learned to break fall in their life.
And the
When I-
funny thing is, is there's that, and I know exactly what Josh is talking about. The person doing that throw, literally, I guarantee you, has never heard of a hank step. Guaranteed. Never heard of it. If you said it to him, you should be hank stepping on that to protect the knee. It's a hip toss. Yeah, it's not a trip. They'd be going, oh, no, you don't know how we do it. That's not our style.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, and that's cool too. Yeah, and that's cool too. And I go, okay, well, maybe it is. Maybe you're trying to break people's legs, which I go, okay, cool. Do you really want to do it to paying students?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, that the way that theoretically, the way that guy was showing it, it's so easy to counter by just having a solid base and lowering your butt lower than their butt. And there's no way for
Yeah.
them to do that. I mean, it's just simple geometry at that point. Like, you cannot make this guy trip over your body when he's lower than you. If you don't do it right, it's just not going to work. And, it kind of gives me a funny question or comment. Is I used to think that, well, I still do. I think that Pat Smith and John Smith are two of the best wrestling coaches to have ever lived.
Yeah,
Now
absolutely.
Kelsey Anderson, obviously, I think, it's pretty much taken everything, but they taught the cowboy stand up, and it's a really effective escape. It's, in fact, I always thought that if I combined it with the Granby system, which is a very, very old and famous style of defensive wrestling in the United States, and well, it's everywhere now, but I always thought, man, that would be so perfect to have in catch wrestling. And the reason I thought it's funny is, like, I looked at my shirt and I was like, oh, I'm wearing my ISWA shirt from Boyd Ritchie. And I was telling Boyd about this at one of the seminars that I brought him down for. And he's like, that's literally in my syllabus. And he shows it to me. And I was like, oh no, it's the exact same move that was already in catch wrestling. Nothing new under the sun. And that's the thing. It's like, if I had never, just attempted to share it, or to be, to say, hey, man, look how cool this is, in a positive way, nobody in my gym would have been able to take advantage of it. And when you limit yourself as a coach, and this is kind of the way I'm trying to think of this as a coach now from now on, because you have to be your selflessness has to be the most apparent part of your personality as a coach. That as a coach, if I am not willing to learn, I am limiting everything. And that's not just a trickle down effect. It's a snowball going downhill, in a comic, that just fundamentally makes the wrestler worse than everybody else. And then you've lost the confidence. You've lost the ability for them to believe in you, to trust you. And then you're just losing your gym members at that point. And so just for self-preservation, I'm begging people, be humble. You can be proud and love the things that you've done, and you can believe that you can beat anybody. In fact, I teach kids. It's like, listen, if there's 5 seconds left, you still got life. Always believe there's a way to win, but be humble in the fact that there's probably a bunch of people that know a heck of a lot more than you will ever know about the sport. And if you're unwilling to just entertain it for even a minute, you're limiting everything that you could potentially be. It's why I think, in the sense that murder is such an evil thing, is that you're taking away somebody's ability to ever become something, to ever become better, to ever be, even in I'm, a pretty conservative far right guy, some people would say, and I don't necessarily believe in the death penalty, because I want everyone, even the worst person, to have the ability to come back from the other side. I believe that God loves every single person, no matter what they've done. And if we start taking that away, we're taking away their ability to come back and to become a better person. We're losing the initiative. And just the same way in wrestling is, if we don't give them the opportunities over and over and over, they're just coming back and forth from work every day. They're not going to know any better. They're not going to know that they're missing out on all this information that's just readily available. And so it's a very important thing that just so, like we were talking about this theoretical guy. I mean, and think theoretically, they have so many kids that are missing out on sound technical stuff because they don't want to learn. They don't want to see that there's a better way. And I would dare say that I'm speaking for you guys when I say that it's not about hating on that person.
Not at
It's
all.
about giving a fundamentally better opportunity for them to learn from it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, some people don't want that. And that's the thing. It's just like they want their bubble, and it's a superiority complex. And, I'd always rather be the dumbest guy in the room, because it gives me more opportunity to learn from more people. You know, uh, I don't care how many years I've been doing this. When, last summer, when Paulson had his 3-day camp, I always go to Eric Paulson's camps and stuff like that, because he always has these great instructors coming and doing these seminars. And it's just like, I don't care. It doesn't matter how many stripes are on my black belt or anything. I don't give a shit. I don't care if I've seen a move 1,000 times. Show it to me 1,001 times. There is something in it every single time that I'm going to see. I'm going to see it differently. I'm going to feel it differently. And I feel that the thing that I have the most gratitude for with the whole developing my skills and becoming a black belt, the only thing that's made me do is it's made me ask better questions. It's made me be a better student. I'm not some better guy. I don't think I'm going to beat everybody's ass. It has nothing to do with that. It's enabled me to have the opportunity to take the time to now become a better student and ask better questions.
You understand what to ask.
Exactly. I understand what to ask, and I have a different line of sight now, a different vision and a different perspective. So with my experience and my experience of failure and my experience of mistakes, to ask more developed questions based on the mistakes, the years of mistakes I've made,
Yep.
the years of the thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of times I've tapped, to ask better questions, to go, I've had this happen to me consistently. What can I do differently? Or what am I doing wrong? Or tell me about how you got here and tell me about your reasoning behind it. Whereas walking into a room going, I'm the grandmaster and I'm this and I'm that, and nobody can beat me, and you can't show me anything. It's just like, it's so delusional. It's so childish. And it's so wrong, because ultimately your students are going to reflect that, right? And your students are going to have that same peacocking arrogance and delusion,
Yep. Or you lose them.
or you lose them, right? And I think it's unfortunate. So I want to wrap this up this way, Josh. How do we find you? Because I know you have a school that's opening up soon, a big party. I would love to be a part of this big grand opening party, but walk us through. How do people find you on social media? How do they find your gym? Tell us everything. Sell us, baby. Sell us.
So on Facebook first, I guess we are Ledge MMA, which is LEDG. So Ledge stands for Lucan, Evan, Dylan, and Gareth, and I got all my kids' names tattooed here so I don't forget it. Um, so Ledge MMA, that's where all the gym updates are going to be. Personally, I have Joshua Penman Hightower on Facebook, and of course, there's my private Facebook as well. And then on Instagram, it's Joshua T. Hightower, where I mix a lot of, because I'm an NRA certified instructor, so I do a lot of self-defense classes. I do a lot of shooting. I do a lot of, gun maintenance, all kinds of stuff. Knives. I'm a fanatic with pretty much any weapon. I love them. So there's going to be a lot of that on my Instagram. And, some people are not comfortable with that, and that's completely okay. Just want to know about the wrestling stuff, Legend MMA, or Joshua Pittman Hightower. And very, very soon, in fact, within this coming up week, the lease agreement should be back from the leasing company. We'll sign that. We'll have about a week to get. Florida has got some strange occupancy rules, and then the county is even worse. So I've got to do some hoops to go through to get the occupancy certification. But we've done all the due diligence ahead of time, so we're going to get in pretty quick. And then we're just going to be filming stuff. On the Ledge MMA, we're going to leave it open in perpetuity for anyone that wants to ask a question. Can you show me this? And we'll do it. We'll do a video on it, step by step if we need to, a quick video if we need to. And then when somebody asks something that I don't know, the wonderful thing about coalescing all these great coaches is that I can ask somebody else, how do you do this? Can you make a video? And will you post it on my page from your own so that these people that are asking about it can see it? And I think that is will be the power of what makes the gym a success. Is one, we're making a pipeline from kids program to junior high, high school, and then adults. And we're not going to leave a gap in any age group. So everybody's going to be part of it. There's going to be homeschooling, because I homeschool two of my kids. There's going to be a lot of that kind of stuff. And hopefully, within the next week, this will be all in second gear as we're trying to find it by grinding it into third.
Nice.
Love it. That is fantastic. So the only other thing I want to put out there, guys, remember, like, subscribe, and share. Everybody has the homework. Okay. You just need to share with 3 people a week. It doesn't cost you anything to grab the link of the podcast and send it. Remember, we're on every platform. So I don't care if you do it from YouTube. We're trying to build the YouTube up, but Apple Podcasts, Samsung, whatever you have, Spotify, that's our biggest platform. We're at 37 countries and counting. I'd love to get to 40 by the end of the year. I'm surprised. We have listeners in like the Seychelles. I didn't even know where that was. And I was like, man, okay, cool. So that was kind of cool.
And Poland too.
Yeah. So it's just like,
my wife is from Poland. So I've watched one of your videos when I was over there a couple months ago.
There you go.
How I
Beautiful.
learned about you.
So get out there, guys, like, subscribe, and share. And remember our sponsors, and we have more coming on, roadgears.com. If you're a motorcycle enthusiast, they make amazing pants. That's GEARZ.com. Discount code is LUG. SpartanCans.com. Discount code is LUG. And also, please, if you go to the PCI or Level Up Grappling page, please donate to Stop Soldier Suicide. So I am part of the 400-mile ride challenge for the month of March. Any dollar amount is welcome. It is a organization that is very near and dear to my heart, and a cause that is very near and dear to my heart. While I have never been in the military, I had a lot of family member and friends in the military, and I train a lot of guys that were veterans. It is very important that we support our veterans and make sure that they get the care that they need. It bothers me to no end that, especially I can only speak for the U.S., many veterans are abandoned by the time they come back and leave their service, and they are not getting the health care and attention that they need. So please stop soldier suicide. Please check out my link. I'm going to keep posting the stories about it. Donate anything that you can. I don't care if it's $1, $5, $100. I'm just looking for 1,000. It's not, none of the money goes to me. 100% goes to the organization. And all of that money is funding these causes for mental health care, medical care, and workplace support for our veterans. So I'm begging you, please, to go on there and register, donate whatever you can. It's 100% tax deductible. None of the money goes to Level Up Grappling. None of the money goes to me. 100% goes to Stop Soldier Suicide. And with that, we are out of here.